said, my name is Taina. I'm founder and executive director of Initiate Justice, which is our 501c3 nonprofit, but we also have a 501c4 called Initiate Justice Action, and we do like partisan organizing work. I'm going to share my screen so that you all can see my presentation. But essentially, what I just wanted to talk about today is the recall election, what your voting rights are, and how you can make sure that you have your voice heard in this election in particular. It's quite new that people on parole have the ability to vote. This is the first statewide election in which people on parole can vote because it's the first election since Prop 17. So I'm really excited to chat with y'all a little bit. I like to also have my presentations be like a little bit interactive, so you're not just like bored listening to me. So I will have like a couple questions in there, and if at any point you want to ask a question about the presentation, please feel free to just raise your digital hand, and we can go, and I'll call on you to answer your question. So here's what I'm planning on going through this afternoon. I'll start off by talking about voter eligibility and how you can register to vote even if you missed the voter registration deadline. I'll talk about the recall election itself, the voting process. I'll talk about the ballot, the candidates running against Governor Newsom, and why this matters. So yes, I will go into painstaking detail. So first I'm going to start with Prop 17 and voting on parole. So Initiate Justice was part of a coalition of organizations that fought really hard to pass Prop 17 last year. And what Prop 17 did was it made California the 20th state in the country in which your voting rights are automatically restored as soon as you get out of prison. So thanks to Prop 17, we had about 50,000 California citizens who automatically got their right to vote restored. But this also opened up an opportunity for us to discuss other voting rights when it comes to being impacted by incarceration, because there's a lot of misinformation out there. So just to be clear, who is eligible to vote in California? To be eligible to vote, you must be a U.S. citizen and a California resident aged 18 or older. If someone is incarcerated in county jail, yes, they can vote. If you are on county probation or post-release community supervision, yes, you can vote. And if you are on parole, thanks to Prop 17 now, you can vote. The only folks who have not had their voting rights restored yet are people who are currently in state or federal prison, or if you're under the age of 18 or not a U.S. citizen and a California resident. So yeah, just to be really clear, there's like lots of misinformation out there. People will think, because they have a felony or, they're on probation that they can't vote, but you absolutely can. The only people who cannot vote because of a conviction are people who are currently in state or federal prison in California. So for this election in particular, election day is September 14th, and the deadline to register to vote was Monday, August 30th. However, California has started something recently known as same-day voter registration. So if you miss the deadline, that's okay. You can still vote even though you're not registered. You can go to your polling place on election day, and you can register that day. Your voter registration will be conditional, which means, they'll have to process your voter registration application first before they count your vote. So it might take a little bit longer for them to count your vote. But as long as you meet all of the eligibility requirements, you will be eligible to vote. You can find your polling place at the website that I have here. At the end, I can also drop the link in the chat if that's easier for folks. But this link will help you find your polling place. So you just put in your address and it lets you know where to go on election day. However, some polling places have also opened early voting. So starting September 4th, some polling places are already open and they have designated hours. So, find your polling place near you. See if you can even go early before September 14th. It might be possible for you to register at the polling place early. But worst case scenario, Polls close at 8 p.m. this coming Tuesday, September 14th. So as long as you make it into your polling place before then, you can vote in this election, even if you are not registered yet. So this is the part where I'm going to ask y'all to engage a little bit. Feel free to just drop your answers in the chat. But yeah, I have a couple of trivia questions that pertain to the recall election in particular. So the first question, and I already gave you all the answer, but feel free to drop your answer in the chat, is when is the recall election? What day is the recall election? Correct. It is September 14th. That's coming up. That's on Tuesday. So that's the date that you can show up in person. And here's another question. True or false? There has been a recall effort against every governor in California's history. Do you think that's true or false? There's been a recall effort against every governor in California's history. All right, I see a couple of falses. However, the answer is true. There has been an effort against every single sitting governor in California's history. Not all of them have been successful, but it's a thing that we do in California, apparently. There's like 11 attempts to recall Governor Newsom, and this is the only one that made it to the ballot. Okay, next question, and again, true or false? Gray Davis was the only governor in California's history to successfully be recalled. Do we think that's true or false? And this was in 2003 when he was recalled, and we got Governor Schwarzenegger. Okay, Claudia, you are correct. It is true. Gray Davis was the only governor who was successfully recalled. So even though in California's history there was an attempt against all of them, he was the only one who was actually recalled. And fun fact, he was only the second governor in America's history to successfully be recalled. There was another governor in like South Dakota in like 1920 or something who was recalled, which is him and Gray Davis. Okay, and this is multiple choice. How many candidates are running to replace Governor Newsom in this recall? Do we think it's A, 12, B, 31, or C, 46 candidates? Okay, I see 46. Two people think A, 12. Gerardo, you are correct. There are 46 candidates running in this election. It's wild. It really is. But 46 people are on the ballot in an attempt to recall Governor Newsom. And I think this is the last question. True or false? A candidate must win majority of votes in order to replace the governor in a recall. True or false? The candidate must win a majority of votes in order to replace the governor in the recall. I see one response. True, a couple of folks. You would think it would be true because it's true for every other election, but it's false. In a recall, you do not need to win 50% plus one of the votes. You just need a plurality. So what that means is if we recall Governor Newsom, whichever of the 46 candidates gets the most amount of votes, so even if it's only like 10% of the vote, they will become the next governor of California. So that means they could only have support of 10% of the state, but they can become the next governor of California. So I ask those questions so that folks can realize like how serious this recall is, what's at stake, and how important it is that folks like us get engaged. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the recall, like kind of like how did we get here? Why is this even a thing? So as I mentioned, the recall election is this coming Tuesday, September 14th. Yeah, what is a recall? Why is it happening now? So a recall election is an attempt to remove an elected official from office before their term ends. So Governor Newsom was elected in November 2018. His term ends in December of 2022. So even if he's recalled and a new candidate takes office, they're only serving until the end of his term, and we're still going to have another governor election next year in November. But folks are trying to recall him now instead of trying to run against him next time because California is a pretty strong like Democratic state. However, not a lot of people are really paying attention to this election. So the Republicans who oppose Newsom and are going up against him are kind of counting on people not to show up. They're hoping that folks don't show up and they don't vote, and that's the only shot that they have at successfully recalling Governor Newsom from office. And some of the reasons that they stated in their opposition that they wanted to recall him was they didn't like that he was making people wear masks, the government shutdowns during the pandemic. He's put a moratorium or pause on the death penalty. A lot of people didn't like that. He's done a lot for immigration reform and extending unemployment benefits. So Republicans are really mad about that kind of stuff. But another thing to note about this recall is that it's going to cost California taxpayers $276 million. So we're paying for this election with our tax dollars. All the counties have to set up voting and everything. So this is a costly thing that unfortunately we all have to deal with. And please, if at any point anybody has questions, please feel free to raise your hand and jump in and ask. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the voting process because some things have changed recently with the pandemic. So right now, everybody who's registered to vote already has received a vote by mail ballot in the mail at their house. Ballots started being mailed out August 16th, but actually some folks like me, I got my ballot before that. And you can submit your ballot either in the mail or drop it in at a designated ballot drop box anytime before September 14th. So if anyone here is already registered to vote and you've already got your ballot, feel free to drop it in as soon as possible. It has to be postmarked by Tuesday, September 14th. How do you vote by mail? You complete your ballot, sign it, and like I said, put it in the mailbox or in the ballot drop box. You can find polling places and the locations of the drop boxes at the Secretary of State's website. And at the end, I have links to all of this stuff. But another thing that a lot of folks aren't aware of is that you can actually track your ballot. You can confirm that your ballot was received and counted. There's another feature on the Secretary of State's website called Where's My Ballot? And if you sign up, you'll get text updates on what happens with your ballot. So I do that every year. And I get a text message. It's like, okay, we received your ballot. It's counted. You're good. And then in the future, if you sign up to continue to be a vote by mail voter, you'll get a text when your ballot is mailed out. So they keep you in the loop every step of the process. So now I'm actually going to talk a little bit about the ballot itself. The recall ballot is different from a lot of other statewide ballots. There's only 2 questions. But the questions might still be a little bit tricky. So question number 1 is just straight up, should Governor Newsom be recalled? So it's just asking if you support removing Governor Newsom from office, and you just have the choice of responding yes or no. Myself and Initiate Justice Action, we're urging people to vote no for a lot of reasons. And then question number 2 is which candidate should replace Governor Newsom? So the ballot is quite long, and then it also has a list of folks on the back. So those 46 candidates who are all trying to replace Governor Newsom, in question number 2, you'd have the opportunity to select one of those candidates. The Democratic Party of California is encouraging folks to vote no on the recall and then leave number 2 blank. We're not recommending anything one way or the other for question number 2. We really just need folks to vote no on question number 1. That's the most important thing. Because then what happens if the governor's recalled? So if 50% of or more of voters vote yes on recalling Governor Newsom, then whichever candidate on question number 2 who gets the most votes will become the governor. And again, like I said, they don't need a majority of the voters. They just need a plurality. So let's talk a little bit about these 46 other people who are on the ballot trying to replace Governor Newsom. So party-wise, 26 of the candidates are Republicans, 9 are Democrats, and 11 of them are a third party or put no party preference. The candidate who is winning by the largest margin so far in all of the polls is a conservative radio talk show host named Larry Elder. So this is a poll that was conducted by UC Berkeley in late July. However, even like more recent polls are still showing that strong support is for Larry Elder, and then some of the other folks are John Cox, who you might remember that name. He ran against Governor Newsom in 2018 as the Republican opponent and lost. Kevin Falconer used to be the mayor of San Diego. He's also a Republican. Kevin Kiley's a current Republican member of the California State Assembly, who is very, very conservative. And then Kevin Paffrath he's a Democrat, but he has said things like he wants to call in the National Guard to remove homeless folks from the streets. So all of these candidates are quite concerning. But I do want to talk a little bit about Larry Elder since he is in the lead. So as I said, he's a conservative talk radio host, and the newspapers have a lot to say about him because of his views. So some of the things that he says is that minimum wage should be $0. He's also talked about sweeping houseless people off of the streets. Most recently, he was in the news for saying that if we give Black folks reparations for slavery, we should also give former white slave owners reparations because they lost their property. So he is a very problematic person. He says that he would support recalling all progressive DAs like Chesa Boudin in San Francisco and George Gascon here in LA. He said that he opposes all criminal justice reform. Anything that has to do with someone getting out of prison early, he opposes it. And he says that he would fight to repeal Prop 47 and Prop 57. So it's quite a possibility that this person will become our next governor if we don't vote no on this recall on Tuesday. So here's from that same poll that UC Berkeley conducted at late July in terms of how people are feeling about the recall. And there's been some new polling since then, but these are the first numbers folks started paying attention to. So the first section looks at the people who are most likely to vote. And of those people who are most likely to vote in this election, 47% are saying, yes, we should recall Governor Newsom, and 50% are saying, no, we should keep him. These polls tend to have a margin of error of like 3-4%. So this is very concerning because really it means that the recall could go either way. But the second section looks at all registered voters in California. So that's not just folks who are, quote, likely to vote in this election, it's everyone. So when they asked everyone, 51% said no, we should keep him, on only 36% said yes, that we should recall him. So what this really shows us is that the people who are considered less likely to show up in this election are the ones who are more likely to vote no on the recall. So what we need to do is make sure that people who are considered less likely to vote, who are mostly people of color, younger people, people with lower incomes, people who are impacted by incarceration, those are the folks that the pollsters don't expect to show up and vote. So we need to make sure that all of us show up and have our voices heard. So yeah, why this matters. There's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of things at stake. But one thing to note is that the governor of California plays many roles that affects the life of people impacted by incarceration. Namely, the governor has the ability to commute prison sentences. They have the ability to review parole board decisions. So if someone gets found suitable, the governor can take their date. They also sign off on CDCR's budget. And Governor Newsom in particular has enacted a lot of policies related to incarceration that are good for our movement. One is, as I mentioned earlier, he put a moratorium or a pause on state executions. So right now, folks on death row have a reprieve. He's authorized the closing of 2 California state prisons and has supported a lot of really good legislation. Also, when he was still lieutenant governor, he was one of the few elected officials who came out in support of Prop 57. So he's been, he's not perfect. He's definitely got some areas where I can critique him. But he, is definitely someone who would do a much better job of protecting the interest of folks impacted by incarceration than potentially somebody like Larry Elder. So, again, just would really encourage folks to know your rights around voting, have your voice heard. The political powers that be are not expecting, folks impacted by incarceration to show up. So we've been doing a lot of work on the ground to make sure that folks on parole know that they have the right to vote, have all the information they need about this recall election, and know, that your voice is powerful. Every single vote makes a difference, especially in really close elections like this one. So here is what you all can do. If you're not registered to vote yet, you can register to vote at your polling place, either on election day, or if your polling place is offering early voting, then you can register before Tuesday and vote before Tuesday. You can vote no on the recall and spread the word and encourage your family members, friends, whoever to do the same. If you have, other folks who are also impacted by incarceration who make sure that they know what their rights are around voting. And if you're interested in learning more about the work that Initiate Justice Action does, you can sign up for our email updates, and I have a link at the end of this presentation. But yeah, before I wrapped up, I guess I wanted to open it up and see if there were any questions. And feel free to just unmute yourself. Okay. Thank you.
Ion shares, thank you for all the info. I'm one of those people currently serving the last remainder of my time in MCRP program. Thank you for sharing, Ion. I think MCRP can vote, right, Taina?
I think so. That's something that, actually, let me touch base with the Secretary of State's office on that, because that's something that someone had asked me before, and I had told them I think so, but I just want to make sure that I'm really clear and not accidentally giving someone the wrong information.
Was it on one of the first slides though? I think I saw it on there.
That was PRCS, which is
PRCS.
Yeah, post-release community supervision, which is like a weird probation-ish thing where it's like you get out off of serving a realignment state prison sentence. Yeah, that's the thing. It's also confusing. Like, they really just want people to be confused and not know what their voting rights are.
Yeah.
And feel free, you can jump in, ask a question at any point. But if you want to continue to stay updated and, continue to learn more about the work that we're doing, because our work doesn't stop after this recall election is over. We are going to be active in every election, state, local, and federal. So if you would like to learn more about the work that we do and potentially get involved, you can follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at IJ Action. And you can also follow that link to sign up for our email list, and we can keep you in the loop as well. And then this is just the slide with my resources. So where I got the poll numbers from and the Secretary of State stuff, I can go ahead and drop it in here. Yeah, I think that might be right.
I have a question. Why is it that this recall has been, I guess, successful? What about it has escalated to the point where we're at now?
A lot of people might have different opinions, and my opinion is I think that it has to do really with COVID and the mandates and everything like that. They actually filed the petition that was successful was actually filed before the government shutdowns and everything, but they started the signature process right when COVID really took off. So I think a lot of people, especially in the beginning, were feeling the pandemic wasn't as serious as Governor Newsom was making it out to be. There was a lot of resentment that things were shut down. So I think the pandemic really had a lot to do with it.
I see. And what effects could, I guess, we foresee for the next elections? If people don't get involved right now to stop the recall?
Yeah, that's a really great questions. There could be like a lot of ramifications for whatever the outcome of this election is, but I think one thing is like very clear, or something that we're hoping to make clear to Governor Newsom, hoping that he doesn't get recalled, is that he really does need to count on like the more progressive base. He really does need to lean more on like folks of color, because those are going to be the people who save him if he doesn't get recalled in this election. So we're hoping that long term he knows that it's the quote, low propensity voters who are, making an effort to show up and make sure that he doesn't get recalled. In terms of policy, like who knows? So many things can happen after this. I've talked to a couple of different consultants who are like, yeah, when Newsom, defeats this recall, he's going to be like really strong in his principles and, come back swinging. Other people are like, he might be more cautious because he doesn't want to get recalled again. So we shall see.
Gerardo, are you going to be voting in person now after learning from today's presentation? What about yourself, Abel and Oscar?
Go ahead, Abel.
I plan to, yes, but I got a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. My question is regards to same-day registration. You mentioned that there's going to be some, that we're going to require some kind of to show proof, right? But I'm renting, and all I have is rent receipts because everything's included, so I have no bills. Am I going to?
You don't need anything. You don't need to show any ID or anything like that to register to vote or to vote. The only thing that you need is to be able to, like, you need to know your contact information. So like it will ask for your driver's license or your ID number. And if you don't have that, then it'll ask for the last 4 digits of your social security number. And something that I learned recently is that even if you don't have an ID number or a social security number, you can just select and say that you don't have that, and the Secretary of State will give you your own like personal like voting ID number.
Okay, so this will be done.
I'm sorry, you're cutting out.
Is someone going to be asking me these questions?
Yeah.
Is someone going to be asking me these questions, or it'll be on the screen?
It'll be on a form that you'll fill out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And something else that I should say, I don't have it anywhere here on these slides, but the Secretary of State's office also has a voter hotline. So I can, try, maybe Claudia, I can email you some of the follow-up information, but there's also a hotline that you can call. So even if you're at the polling place and, you have a question about voting, or they're telling you something that you don't think is accurate, you can call that number. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see if I can find it.
Oscar, how are you feeling? Are you going to be voting in person? Martha, have you voted already?
No, I haven't. I got my ballot in the mail. So and today I actually walked past, I had to take the train earlier. So I walked past one of the polls, but now I know that it's there. I was like, oh, that's cool. They have it in the Union Station, just kind of like, for folks who, and of course, folks who use the public transportation system, a lot of them are, people of color commuting to work. So that's cool. I will definitely have to drop off my ballot soon.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, I don't remember if I mentioned this. If you drop it in a mailbox, you can drop it in any mailbox and you don't need any postage. So just make sure that you fill out your ballot completely, sign it on the back. If you don't sign it on the back, it doesn't count. And then you can drop it, in any mailbox or one of the voter drop boxes.
Yeah, thank you for all this information. I mean, this definitely put things into perspective for me, because there's both sides of the debate, and I just haven't really had time to do research, so it's really cool to hear it from some an organization, somebody who's actively involved and like explaining all these like meticulous details and all the data. So you got my vote for sure.
Awesome. Thank you. No. And I think that's kind of like, what folks are counting on. They're counting on people to like not pay attention because we're so busy and have so much going on. So yeah, don't worry. Any election, I'm doing way too much research. So consider me a resource for any election moving forward.
Yeah, I like to second that. I appreciate the information because I didn't know a lot of what you just spoke on. It was eye-opening for me. And as time goes on, the more I can do for the movement, I will. As I said, I'm in MCRP right now. I'm under restriction, but I don't have too much longer to go on my sentence. So I appreciate you keeping me up to date on what's going on. And the LA Reboot Incubator, I appreciate just being able to be a part of the organization. You guys, you're doing great work, and I'm glad to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all. Let me see. I'm gonna drop the link for
I can, if you have an email you want me to send out to all the invitees, I can go ahead and message that through Eventbrite as well.
yeah, and Claudia, maybe I can send you this presentation if you want to share it with folks. It has all of the resources. I think the only link I don't have in the presentation is the one with the voter hotline, and I just dropped that in the chat.
Okay. Oscar, Ephraim, will you guys be voting now?
Hello? Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, I actually already voted on Labor Day. And I actually was able to get that done. They sent me my voter registration form, and I think it was over the weekend. And on Monday, which was Labor Day, I actually turned it in. And I want to thank all of you, including Taina and everyone involved, to pass this bill, to make it possible to vote, because I won't be able to do that. Me and a lot of other people that are impacted by this law, for preventing to vote. And I recently, well, it's going on 2 years now, but I was incarcerated, and if it wasn't for this, I wouldn't have been able to voice for make my voice with her. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations on voting.
Well, thank you.
Very proud of you, Oscar. Ephraim, have you voted yet, or will you be voting?
Yes, I actually did vote. It's kind of cheesy, but I'm gonna drop the link, Taina, of the Spectrum interview.
I was looking for it right now. If you didn't drop it.
Oh, you want to dig it up?
No, I don't have it. If you have it, go ahead.
Okay, I'll get it. I'll actually post it. I've been home for 2 years now and actually benefited from this bill. And actually it was my first time voting. I voted a couple months ago, and I was interviewed prior to this by Spectrum in regards to ACA 6 when we're pushing Prop 17 and all that. And basically what it meant for people like us coming home, how California was using us to be essential workers and putting our lives at risk. And but when it came time to vote, they didn't allow us to vote. So one of the things, Taina got it. Thank you. So I've been a part of this whole movement with Initiate Justice and a couple other organizations. Now actually being a member of Initiate Justice, I love what this organization does, and just giving us that right. I remember, you guys could see the check out the link, check out the interview. But just being able to have that moment. So Oscar, congratulations also, bro. And I know what it meant to me when I got that voter card and was able to cast my ballot. It means a lot to me, and I'm sure it meant a lot to you. So yeah, very grateful. And of course I voted no.
Thank you for sharing it, Frey. And I'm gonna check out that video. That's so cool that you got to do that interview. You got a little famous press over there.
Yeah, his first time voting is recorded for posterity's sake.
Well, if there's any parting comments from anyone else.
I just want to say, thank you for having me. We've been, doing a lot of these like little conversations for the past several weeks. We've been doing presentations like at reentry homes and things like that. Want to make sure that everybody has the information. We were, been registering folks at the reentry homes. We even did one in front of the county jail one day. So yeah, we just want to make sure that everybody knows what their rights are, for the purpose of this election, because this election is important, but just in general, elected officials are accountable to those of us who vote for them. Our tax dollars pay their salary and they're only in office because of us. So we need to make sure that, we are exercising like our civil liberties, having our voice heard at the polling place. And, if voting didn't matter, they wouldn't fight so hard to make sure that certain people can't vote. So we want to make sure that everybody knows about their rights and exercises their rights for September 14th and every election after that.
Thank you, Taina, for joining us and sharing all this information. It's really good to have this information at hand, because information is clarity. And when we have clear minds, we can do really good things. Everyone, make sure to text or message 3 people, get them to vote on this recall elections. You have influence, use your influence, and make sure to turn in your ballot before September 14th.
Yes, I turned mine in August 18th. It was probably like one of the first ones. And I got my text message a few